Two things have happened behind the scenes in quick succession that has put a very big question mark on the historical handshake on the stairs of Harambee House in Nairobi. I'm of course talking about the handshake between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. The first thing that happened is a joint tour of the two, Raila and Uhuru, in NASA strongholds starting with Kisumu, was postponed. The excuse, and I assure you it's nothing more than an excuse. It's not the real reason. The excuse was that to give both parties a bit more time to brief their foot soldiers, to brief their people. Now, chances are that one would have accepted that as a genuine excuse if the next thing did not happen. And this next thing that happened is that a joint press conference, featuring two lawyers, one representing Uhuru, the other representing Raila, who are supposed to push forward the agenda of the handshake, was cancelled at the 11th hour. And this was the joint conference featuring Ambassador Kimani on behalf of Uhuru and lawyer Paul Mwangi on behalf of Raila. Both are lawyers. That press conference was supposed to take place last Friday. And many were looking forward to it because for the first time, it would have brought a lot of clarity into the deal which is still secret. The deal that was struck between the two leaders. Now, clearly, from those two events behind the scenes, it is now very crystal clear that the handshake deal is under intense pressure. Now, obviously, this recording is going to be very bad news for businessmen who are already rubbing their hands in glee and saying, finally, this issue is over. We can now get back to making money. We can now get back to our businesses. Now, I'll not pretend I'm one of the people who supported this handshake. And the only reason I supported the handshake is that the alternative I did not want to consider or even think about. And as I've always said here, any bloody conflict, civil war, etc., the way it ends is that same people who did not want to talk before the bloodletting still end up back at the negotiation table talking. So why not negotiate early? Before you spill innocent Kenyan blood. That is still my view, my personal view. And of course, all you guys are welcome to have your own views. It's a free country. I have no problem. I'm not going to hate you because you have a different view from mine. This is one of the things I don't understand about Kenyans. In Kenya, debate ni vita. Kenyans are just behaving like wild animals. Why can we not have a discussion and we strongly disagree and we're still friends? Why is that not possible? Why are people insisting that we all become robots? These robots are programmed in such a way, these other robots are programmed in such a way. They cannot change. They cannot listen to the other side because they're robots. Gosh, we're human beings. We have different ideas. We cannot always all agree. Anyway, that was my position. That is still my position. I have no apologies to make, but you're still my very good friend, even if you have different views. My very good dear friend. Anyway, what is emerging is this deal is under intense pressure. Intense, very intense pressure. Let us start with the obvious sources of pressure or opposition or resistance against this deal. Now, it is very, very instructive that nobody from the TNA wing of Jubilee has said anything against this deal. So far, nobody. They're just all full of praise for it. Some of them who the other day were castigating Raila are praising Raila, etc., etc. However, all the throwing of a spanner into the works has come from, you guessed it, the URP wing of Jubilee, Ruto people. Duale, who's joined at the hip with Ruto, DP Ruto, came out with a statement that really confused many Kenyans. In fact, he has issued several statements about the deal. In one of them, he says, Yes, the deal is on, people will negotiate, but forget about the presidency. Now, what kind of comment is that? Anyway, it is very obvious why Ruto people are fighting against it, because it's going to scuttle their well-laid plans for 2022. A lifetime away, maybe 2-3 lifetimes away, because we're not even we're not even halfway through 2018, a very crucial political year for Kenya. The other people against the deal, this time from the NASA side, is led by Dr. Miguna and the NRM. Now, instead of dwelling so much on the NRM and Miguna, let us do something more interesting. Let's look at their real source of power. The engine that is driving Miguna and the NRM to be a major political force in Kenya. Let's look at that. Now, before we go any further, let me apologize and say that in my early analysis, I was wrong. Now, a few moments ago, somebody here was really trying to convince me that actually I was not wrong. Yeah, they told me, no, Chris, you're not wrong. What happened is that the factors have changed. You would not have foreseen those factors, and therefore your statement at that time was correct. Well, I disagree. I was wrong when I said the NRM is nothing but a shell without Raila Odinga. Yeah, that has been proven by time not to be correct. And it was not correct for two reasons. Number one, the NRM has received immense backing from the diaspora. Number two, the handshake between Raila and Uhuru has even added to the popularity of NRM. How? It has added to the popularity of the NRM because there are too many people in Kenya. I have no idea how many, but there are just too many people in Kenya who do not support that handshake. There are too many people in Kenya who believe that the handshake was a betrayal, and that because of the handshake, the only person left to fight for a better Kenya, the only person left to fight for real and true change in Kenya is Miguna and the NRM. Now, to be very honest, personally, if you ask me, I don't agree with that. However, this is not about me and my personal views. It is about politics, and it's about what the people think. That's what matters, not what Chris Kumekucha thinks or wants. It is not even about Chris Kumekucha's ideas of how best to bring about change in Kenya. Those are irrelevant, The most important thing is the people. And the people are very suspicious about that deal. The people do not like that deal. That is the truth. And as a result of that, NRM and Miguna has grown tremendously. In fact, it is very interesting because again I made another mistake. I thought the signing of that deal, would be one of the last nails on the coffin of NRM and Miguna. Well, as the way things are unfolding, I was wrong. That deal has in fact done the very opposite for Miguna and the NRM. It has served the purpose of breathing new life into the NRM and Miguna, the kind of life they did not have before. Now, I just find it absolutely fascinating how history keeps on repeating itself. What am I talking about? How did change come to Kenya at independence? How did Kenyans start resisting the colonial government? In a more organized, in a more lethal way that finally brought down the colonial government. It started with native African soldiers who were fighting for the king, who had been taken outside the country for that fight. They had fought in Burma and places like that. And when they returned, foreign travel always opens your eyes, always up to this day. So when they returned, their eyes were opened. They saw how things were happening in those other countries. They saw how people were governed in those other countries. And when they came back home, they desired the same for their country. Even Dedan Kimathi had fought for the king. So that's where it all started. Now history is repeating itself because Kenyans in the diaspora, who are seeing the way those other countries are managed, the way institutions in those countries are strong, and the way in those countries when elections come, there's no fear in the public. In fact, some people don't even notice there's an election going on. as opposed to their own country. When elections come, it's a time for tensions. Huh? Well, these guys in the diaspora have now said they want change in their home country. And many of them have started doing something about it. Yeah, exactly the way their great forefathers did in the 1940s, yeah, and 1930s. I also find it very interesting that something has happened with the Kenyans in the diaspora. Many of them were not interested in Kenyan politics. Many of them were more concerned about the politics in the countries where they live. But the August 8th elections changed all that. A lot of them have started paying very close attention to what is happening in Kenya. A lot of them have started agitating for change in Kenya. Yeah? And a lot of these guys are fully supporting the NRM, its activities, and its efforts to bring about change in Kenya. And this is one of the great forces against the handshake deal between Raila and Uhuru. Yeah, one of the great threats against that handshake. Now, this group has even influenced people in Kenya. Already we had people on the ground who were against that deal. Yeah, they felt the people of Kenya had been shortchanged. However, those numbers have been greatly bolstered by Kenyans in the diaspora who have influence back home. Yeah, they have relatives still back home. Yeah, many of them are supporting their relatives back home. Yeah, and if I can put it bluntly, it is very hard to have different opinions and views from those of the person sending you money. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Anyway, that's oversimplification of this situation. I've just oversimplified it, yeah? The truth is, Kenyans in the diasporas have influence back home. And that is a fact. It's a fact you cannot run away from. It's a fact that the government is very much fully aware of, yeah? And how do I know this? Because several actions the government has taken, not recently, over a number of years, over the last 10 years or so, proves that the government is very wary of the influence and clout of Kenyans in the diaspora. Why do you think that we still have issues, yeah, about Kenyans in the diaspora voting, when it is very clear in our constitution that that is their right, yeah? And what the government should have done, they should have done this thing chap and made it easy for any Kenyan in the diaspora to vote. The reality is that there have always been roadblocks. Always this excuse, oh this, oh that, oh security, oh, you know, a lot of things, yeah, beating about the bush. But the truth of it, the bottom line, is that the government is very wary of obeying the constitution on this front, yeah. And I'm even talking about the Mwai Kibaki government, the joint coalition government that was there even before Uhuru and Ruto came in. Yeah. In other words, the government has been very consistent, yeah, in this behavior towards Kenyans in the diaspora, and with good reason, of course. Yeah, with good reason for a government which wants to maintain control, which wants to keep same old running. Yeah, the diaspora is definitely a threat to that. And so we need to ask ourselves that critical question. Yeah. How long will this Raila-Uhuru deal last? Now, I've chosen my words carefully because somebody else would want to correct me and say, no, Chris, the question you should ask is, will the Raila-Uhuru deal survive? But I'm afraid we have already crossed that bridge. Yeah, that train has left the station. It is no longer a question of whether or not it will survive. It's a question now, in my view, of how long will it last. Now, of course, a lot will depend on what will happen on Monday 26th, when Miguna is due back. Some people are saying he should be in the country by 11 a.m. on Monday morning, Kenyan time. Other very credible sources are trying to tell me that arrival will be delayed. Yeah. But bottom line, by end of day Tuesday, Kenyan time, Miguna should be back in Kenya. And so, what will happen with his arrival is what will help us answer that question of how long will the Uhuru-Raila deal last. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.